Hello, everybody. Welcome back. How are you? Such a pleasure to be here today. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. How is your heart today? How are you feeling? Is this your first time? Share in the chat if you want to, so I know who's here. Can you hear me okay? That's another good question as we begin. Is the sound good? Over here, it looks like everything is set. Let's see. Yep. Hello. I saw some familiar faces registered for the event, so I'm really excited to be here. Great. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate the feedback. Very good. Where are you in the world? I am in the US right now, in Pennsylvania. I am originally from Uruguay, South America. Spanish is my first language. Ooh, Tampa's warm, nice. We are a little gray today here. The work of remembering the sun is there somewhere because it's gray and a little chilly. And is this your first time? Okay, good. Well, welcome to I'm creating a little series. It's not that they are necessarily you miss anything if you didn't do the first one, but I'm creating a little series around this theme, how to apply Feldenkrais to relationships and to awareness of life itself, not awareness of our mind body, which is what the method is really famous for. So I'm not sure who is familiar with the work or who was here last week, but we had a really good session, and I'm gonna build on that and remind ourselves some of the things we talked about. And I think the main invitation here today is to find a place where you can be undistracted. We're gonna keep the session itself to an hour, and it's gonna be a little talk at the beginning and then a movement practice and then questions and answers at the end. And ideally, you have a moment with yourself where you can really take the attention within and be uninterrupted. That's how you will get the most out of the session. Hi, Mary. Good morning. We have a big Feldenkrais community in Oregon, or I would say in the whole West Coast. So maybe you have heard of it before. I came across this work in 1995. I was in acting school in Uruguay. And I have to tell you, we had at least 12, 13 different movement practices, for anything from ballet to fencing to gymnastics. And Feldenkrais was changing my brain in a way that I could feel. I could notice, I could feel the difference. And that's what you may feel if you do a whole lesson. Today we're going to take a small lesson and the principles around it and apply them to a bigger topic or a different topic. So it's not going to be the same experience. If you go to my teacher's page, you will see more Feldenkrais, purely, just the recording of the class. And then you might notice that your movement patterns begin to change, your thought patterns begin to change, sometimes after the first session, which is pretty impressive. The work is based in the plasticity of our human brain, our capacity to both create new cells, brain cells, and connect them. So we're going to use that. We are going to use that. And also the main basis of the work is attention. So you can think of it as body mindfulness in a sense. We're paying attention to the body. We are going to reduce the effort, make things a little slower and smaller. And because of that, your brain, which is used to receiving a lot of input all the time and processing only a fraction of all the input that it receives, we're going to reduce the input by reducing the effort and reducing the amount of sensory load, let's say. And our brain becomes very interested because suddenly it feels as if you're driving on a country road at 20 miles an hour and you get to see everything around you, while we are so used to moving at 100 miles an hour that we barely see the landscape. Is all like very fast passing by. So that's in my opinion, the brilliance of this work is that we really slow things down and we really take our time to observe and become curious about what do we see, what do we notice. And the first idea of this is that we don't need to change anything. So first principles, let's say, is that the moment you change, you missed an opportunity to simply observe what was there. So we are going to change eventually things, but first let's observe. And that, if I want to connect it to other sources of wisdom, which I love, reminds me of the 4 agreements. And we don't make assumptions first. We simply notice, right? The moment you make an assumption, oh, that's wrong, I have to change it, then that moment where you could simply watch what was happening is gone forever. So that's partly what makes this so rich for me as a teacher. I teach groups and individuals this work, and I also apply them to healing, because you can really understand from that point of view that the ways you are used to holding yourself, caring yourself, anything from posture to emotional states to thoughts, beliefs, it's permeable, it's not set in stone. Even if you had something structurally set, like say scoliosis, you can change the way you move by first observing what are you doing. One of Feldenkrais' most famous quotes, and one of my favorites, is in order to do what you want, you need to know what you're doing. So let me say that again. In order to do what you want, you first want to know what are you doing. And that takes pure awareness, that takes witnessing attitude, not coming in already thinking, oh, my shoulder's bad, or I have bad back. Bad back doesn't know about being good back, right? So we kind of peel off some of the labels and come at ourselves and our own experience with beginner's mind. And I think that's very good principle to apply to relationships and relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, because we are so identified. Like, for example, I'll talk about me and you think about your experience. I am a mother of 2. I am a divorced woman right now, single. I am a business owner. I am a teacher or healer or practitioner, public speaker, you name it, right? A role after role after role. And embodying those roles is very specific. If you're a mother, you have certain traits you might think of. I sleep with one eye open in case somebody needs me at night, that you don't if you don't have a pet or you just yourself, right? And from then on, you can make lists of all the traits, both behaviors, thoughts, feelings, beliefs that you I'm going to say buy in, but it's not in that only sense, the material sense of buy-in. It's just I believe into this. That becomes my identity. Now I see myself as that. Now I'm going to behave as that. And I'm going to create my environment to support that. And it becomes self-fulfilling. So in a sense, we step back, zoom out as if you're a camera, and look at all that and say, okay, if I had no identity of any of this, if it was all malleable, meaning I am a mother, but that doesn't mean that I have to put myself last. I can be a mother from a different place in my heart, in my body, in my mind. I come to my relationships not needing to please anybody or to say yes or make everybody happy. That's not my job. I come to relationships being a witness of how do I show up, right? So we see that the principles that seem to be useful for the body, posture, healing, flexibility, become now more applicable to other parts of our life if you want to use them that way. So whoever is new in the chat, welcome. I like to say welcome to my home, because here we are in my house. And if this is not your first time, welcome back. And if you want to share, go ahead and share freely in the chat, whatever you want to share. If you have questions, go ahead. I will answer them as soon as possible. So who has a little experience or has shared, has thought about this? How can we take simple principles that seem disconnected, or let's say you're a yogi. Do you have experience with that? Taking a practice that seems unrelated and making a connection and say, okay, if in yoga I am invited to breathe, because I know breathing opens my body, taking that and using it in other moments where you may not be thinking about it. And the reason why I bring this up and ask you to look for examples of other disciplines that you're maybe already more practiced on is that we are interconnected. We have very thin boundaries between mind, body, heart, environment, others, feelings, thoughts. We make these compartments because it's easier for us, language-wise, to conceive the world, but really it's all more meshed than we get to see or sense or be told when we grow up. So when you connect two things that you didn't think they were connected, your body feels a sense of homecoming, a sense of, oh yeah, I know this feeling. This makes sense. So if you're not familiar with that, that's part of the what are we going to play with today. We're going to play with connecting a couple things that you may not have thought of before, like the movement of your hand and how that positions you in relation to your family. And a part of you is going to be like, huh? What is she talking about? This sounds crazy. Like, I never thought of that. This is impossible. There's no relationship there. So if you find that, I'm inviting you to think of it as an invisible wall that was created because all of our conditioning that things are separate. And if you can, trust that for the time being, we're creating a sacred space where we can safely experiment, and you're not going to be in danger and you're not going to get hurt. So it's somewhere to lean into, inside of you, lean into that discomfort of, I don't know, this is weird. I'm going to do it my way, to try something new. Play with it as you put on the scarf today and say, oh, do I like this color? Or maybe I don't know, the texture, maybe I'll try something else. Try it on, okay? And I'm gonna give you several cues throughout the movement lesson. And you can try them on and see what feels right to you. And sooner or later, you will find something. That's how the brain is wired. You will find something that will make sense, that will click. And you will go, oh, wow, this feels great. Now I get it. It's a mini aha moment. The Feldenkrais work is designed to create all of those opportunities. Moments for confusion, mistakes on purpose, moments for this seems impossible, moments for, wow, this feels so easy. I know it by heart and I never done it before. It's all laid out to recreate, let's say, a learning process where you may be doing something you did many years ago when you started learning basic function. That's how the work is designed. Feldenkrais himself was an engineer, a physicist, a PhD. He was a very smart man, interested in other things that were not commonplace back in the early 40s when he started this work, like hypnosis, autosuggestion, judo. So he was a man of many disciplines, and he also was married to a pediatrician. So he observed a lot of babies learn, develop, come from not walking to walking. So one day he was in his later years and he couldn't walk anymore. And back then the surgeries were really bad and he wasn't guaranteed to walk after the surgery. So he said, no, I'm going to go home and I'm going to put together everything I know. So he made this blend, I like to call it a smoothie, of all the disciplines he knew about: physics, engineering, martial arts, baby development, self-hypnosis. And he created this work, which actually uses neuroplasticity, which wasn't going to be discovered until the 2000s scientifically. And he was doing this in the 40s. So that's what I invite you to today. And I'm going to lay it out in terms of a few principles, 2 or 3, so we don't complicate things. And then we're going to do a movement lesson, experience the principles that are ingrained in this work, and then see how can they apply to relationships. So to begin that, let's think about something maybe that you are pondering. Not necessarily a conflict, but something in terms of your relationships, maybe with self, partner, family, that you're pondering. And let's make it personal. So think about something. I want to think about something myself now. Just bring something close so we get an incentive. So you're working on something that feels that is worth the time and the attention that you're going to invest here. So if you could find an insight into that through your own body-mind experience today, would that be helpful? So let's bring it close, and you can breathe in. How can I, is what I'm wondering, how can I help this situation? And if you have paper nearby and you want to write it down, perfect. Sometimes you get insights through writing. So we're going to explore 3 principles to make it very simple. The first principle being that our attention and where is it placed changes the quality of the experience. Okay, so let's just make a note of that. I'll talk about it for a moment. We're going to experience it through the body, through awareness, through Feldenkrais, and then we're going to use that, place it onto the situation. And this is the first one because you might be familiar with this, because attention is our most precious currency these days, isn't it? Every advertiser is fighting for our attention. So attention changes the quality of your experience, and not necessarily only the experience outside of yourself, but also your inner experience. So even before we do the movement practice, just like play with that in actuality, not in theory. So right now, as you listen to me, if you place your attention in my words, you say close your eyes and simply listen to my voice and feel the quality of my voice and how I'm expressing what I'm saying. Let this land in your body. Perhaps take a breath as you listen to my voice. You're paying attention to the frequency, to the quality of what I'm sharing with you, and it's coming to you in a different way than, say, if you open your eyes and you're listening to what I'm saying, but you're noticing that I have plants in the background and that I have a lamp on the other side, and your attention is somewhere else. And you might hear what I'm saying, but it's going to get to you in a whole different way. Now, you could do both, perhaps, because we can pay attention to multiple things. But the moment I ask you now, pay attention to your feet on the ground and how supported you are on the chair as you listen to me talk about this work and la la la, yeah. It comes a moment where it's challenging sometimes to be inward oriented. Pay attention to your legs and your breath as you listen to my voice and everything I'm transmitting. It takes training, but definitely the moment you bring your attention to yourself and you begin to think of your back and the back of your head and your left knee, it might be a little harder for you to observe my environment or even to connect to my voice and the frequency of what I'm saying in the same way. We are taught to believe that we're multitaskers, but really our brain likes to do one thing at a time. This is also researched. It excels at doing one thing at a time and connecting to that one thing. So your attention can benefit from that. Now we're going to play with that in the movement lesson, so you really have a feeling of it. But how can this apply to this relationship theme? What are you paying attention to, let's say, in this situation that you're looking for more insight? Would you be able to shift your attention in a way that gives you more perspective or becomes more inclusive of more elements. Or perhaps you are so spread out that you need to zoom in and pay attention to something very small, details. So just thinking about the application of it before we even get a thorough sense of it in our bodies. So principle 1 that I want to work with today are attention and how we shift it, how we choose to place it in different places, in different locations, use it in different ways, alters the quality of the experience that we have, the quality of the experience itself, and the quality of our inner experience. Okay? So, good. So now another principle is that we have, as humans, ready-made tendency to react to whatever is presented to us in at least 2 ways, 2 movements, let's say, of our attention, again, of our orientation, of our focus and paying attention, noticing. One of them is the movement of towardness. You may feel that when you're interested in something, when something makes you curious or perhaps excited, you lean in, you move toward that which is creating that curiosity for you. And when you are not that excited, perhaps even rejecting what is in front of you, you move away from it. Sometimes this is visible and your body will move towards in a way. You see this frequently in meetings with people, even through the camera. Somebody may lean in and really pay attention to your every word. Somebody may lean back and begin to disconnect. But sometimes these movements are internal. And yet you can identify a movement of towardness and awayness. Okay? And we're going to play with this in the movement lesson. And think right now, if you can observe that area of your life, and when that situation happens, you move away. Or, I'm going to be there and be the one that fixes things. Put out the fires, right? It's a natural tendency, becomes automatic, becomes habitual. And now what we're doing is we're interrupting the habitual by noticing. I'm not saying it's wrong to move away or close. I'm only saying, look at what I do when this situation arises, this person, this event. I always, if I don't notice what I'm doing, I always will move away, or I'll always will move towards. It's natural, feels familiar, feels safe, feels comfortable. So that's another principle we want to play with, just because we want options. We don't want to always be an automatic, habitual. We want to have at least 3 ways to do the same thing. So if we only move away or only move close, we have only 1. The moment we learn that there's an option, we have 2. And then and then the third option would be to not move at all and become a complete witness, neutral. Okay? There's more. We can combine things. But for now, let's keep it very simple. Observing an inner movement of towardness, awareness, or neutrality. Equanimity, simply observing. Yeah, aware of being aware, that you can be aware, and that is all there, and you don't need to do anything, you don't need to be or say or decide or change. For a moment you're suspended. This will access most easily through the breath and stillness. So third principle, to make it real simple today, because this can be multi-layered. Third principle is that we are designed as a human architecture that we are, divine connection of all this that happens all the time inside our bodies. Think about it. Organs, cells, from one cell, this whole body, right? A combination of bones, ligament, tendons that move exceptionally well and can perform all these amazing athletic feats, tissue and fascia that connects everything and keeps everything porous and fluid and juicy. So this is a miracle. The human body is a miracle, and it's designed to move as one. It's designed to interdepend on its parts. Now, this is a challenging concept because maybe in different cultures it's not the case, but here, Western medicine has dissected the body to an extent that there's all these different parts. So if something's off in one part of your body, you have to go see a specialist for that part. And if you go see a shoulder doctor, the knee doctor has nothing to do with that. It's a whole different area, though there are two joints and they're designed to move together. So it kind of invites you to shift your paradigm about what is your body. What is your body mind? What is your body mind spirit? It's one thing. And we benefit from moving with the whole, from seeing ourselves as a whole and not a sum of separate parts. So we know this. We are meditators or maybe spiritual practitioners, but how does this apply? Of course, in movement will be easy to notice how much more efficient it is, but how does this apply to this area of our lives? Are we leaving things out? Are we deciding, I'm going to approach this with my mind because this is logically the right thing to do, and leaving out our heart, our feelings? Are we only heart and we put ourselves out in the world of relationships with ourselves, loved ones, family members, partners, heart first, and leave all reasoning behind? Are we all body? Are we only body? Have we lost touch and feel of our body because it doesn't feel safe to be in our body? Can we imagine that applying this principle, we can find a little peace by connecting even what doesn't know that is connected? Your body, mind, your heart, the parts of ourselves that we don't really know or like or feel that are worthy of moving out into the world. Oh, am I gonna let that part of me be seen? Yuck. No. They're gonna run away. They're gonna take their love away. They're gonna see how ugly I really am. Right? So all of it, all of us, which is not just the body is a physical representation of our experience, is allowed and is invited to be present, to be participant, and to move as one. I like to say our body is a home, as a house, and all the little bits of it are invited in. We are a guest here, but we all invite all aspects of ourselves to be seen, to be accepted, to be honored, to be playful. Okay? So you'll see the moment we do the movement lesson in just a moment. You leave something behind and it's gonna hurt. It's not gonna feel so easy. But so many times we leave parts of us tucked away and don't put them out there in relationship because we're afraid of what's going to happen. And we don't get the immediate feedback that we may get from our body. Oh, that's not working. That feels weird. You're going to feel the feedback in the movement lesson. And then use that as a template to say, okay, if that's happening to my body so clear, that's probably happening too in my relationships. Now, I put this out there as a layout. You pick whatever you want. You don't have to do all of it. You don't have to work on all these aspects at the same time. Maybe you just pick one of the three things that I shared. Maybe you just concentrate on what's easier for you to understand or to apply. Okay? And know that there's so much more where this came from, and I have my work all over YouTube and my website and here, and I have a Patreon account. There's at least 4 platforms. I'm not that frequently on Facebook, but everywhere else I am. So you will get more exposure to this work. It's not the first and only time you will be able to do this, okay? Amazing, Ginger, thank you. Oh, Lynn, missed you. Hi, this is a virtual hug for you. How are you, my love? So good to see familiar faces. Okay, Well, if you came back from the dog walk, Linda, I invite you to come into a place where you can either lie down. We're going to do a movement lesson now. I talked enough. If you have questions about what I shared, put them in the chat. You can be friends, add us as a friend for sure. I will look back into the chat later because now I want to concentrate in the guidance of the lesson. So if you can, put the phone away, the pets away, close the door, get a time for yourself during the next 20 minutes, much better. You're going to get more out of it. If you can't, it's fine, no worries. And if you can lie down, that will be most beneficial. Why? Because when we are not in gravity, we live in a gravitational field, which keeps us always aware of not falling and being upright and where is the predator coming from, danger. So 90-80% of our nervous system is on the moment we stand up. When we sit, little less, but still, a lot of our nervous system, especially the fight or flight branch of our nervous system, the sympathetic, is activated. We're paying attention, we're alert. When you lie down, partly because we're not in gravity anymore, we change our relationship. We're still in gravity, but we change our relationship with gravity. And also because it's a traditional test, our nervous system's activity decreases a lot, almost 80%. So it's much better to work with the brain because now the balance is different, and now you're going to feel more resting sensations, digesting noises, perhaps a yawn or a softening of your larynx. All the rest and digest part of the nervous system, the parasympathetic, will be on, especially towards 15-20 minutes in. So perfect if you can lie down, easier, faster. If you can't, sit. If you can't lie down, sit on a chair, and we'll do the best with that. We're going to be lying down on our side for this movement practice, so you might want something under your head, like a pillow or even your arm. Just making sure when you're putting something under your head that the head is not bent sideways, that it stays in line with the spine. And if you have neck pain after you wake up, that might be happening. Your pillow might be too high or too low. So other than that, I won't be demonstrating much because of that orientation of attention inward that I was mentioning before. You benefit from paying attention to what's happening within more than copying me for this particular work. So let's begin. Find a place where you can lie on your side and take a moment to allow the weight of your body to be held by the surface that you're lying on. And if you're seated on a chair because you don't have enough room to lie down, you can feel the weight of your feet and your pelvis and feel the support that you are receiving from the chair. And take a moment to shift the attention to your inner sensations, whatever they are, and don't need to change anything. So you might feel comfortable or tired or cold or warm. And see if you can also notice the sensations that you have in relation to the support. So you might feel light or heavy, held or comfortable or uncomfortable with relation to the support of the chair or the floor. And notice that all of this you can change, but you don't have to. Meaning if you're uncomfortable, you can wiggle around, but you can notice the discomfort. It's okay. And if you're cold, I would say put some clothing on, but if you don't mind it and you want to have, your feet a little chilly, you can leave them be. Meaning you have choice at every moment. There's a choice point at every moment. You notice, and you can choose to do something or not. But we're cultivating the noticing, the observing, cultivating asking the question more than receiving the answer right now or making a shift. So in that vein, notice that as you are seated or lying down, hopefully lying down on your side, your head is pointing in a specific direction, and even if your eyes are closed, you could imagine what you could see in front of you. So picture that. You can open your eyes if you want to, or you can keep them closed and imagine where your eyes are, what you could see in front of you. And let's say you're lying on the left side. Take the upper arm, the one that is not on the floor, in front of you. And as you breathe, again, noticing without changing anything, just taking a breath, and move this arm around you. And take the arm in the direction of your back. So you lift your arm from wherever it is, and you move it around yourself, and take the arm in the direction of your back, and bring the arm back to the place where it was before. And see if you can truly observe how do you do this. Becoming so curious about the movement and not worried at all about how it should be. There's probably multiple ways to do this, so there's not one right way to do it. If you're looking for me to demonstrate it, I will not, so don't worry. Just notice, how do you like to take your arm from wherever it is in front of you and turn it around so it's sideways or towards the ceiling, maybe, or around your body and then behind you. And don't go any further than you're comfortable. So nothing's supposed to hurt. Even if you make a small movement, it's fine. Okay, and now let it go. Come back to rest. I'm guiding as if you are lying on your left side. The right arm is moving. And if you have to be seated, the right arm is moving. Okay. So now, shift your attention. Instead of thinking of the arm, we're going to do the same movement. But I'm going to ask you to shift your attention. And now, instead of thinking of the arm, think of your right hip. What is the right hip doing as you move? What is the right hip doing? Lean in towards the curiosity that you can experience as you take this right arm around yourself, behind you. What is the right hip doing? You're lying on your side, on your left side, and you're moving the right side. What is the right knee doing? And notice that your attention shifting is inviting more and more of the whole of you to participate. In other words, if you're only moving your arm and your hip was passive, quiet, perhaps the moment I said, "What is your hip doing?" you began to move it just because it was named. It became part of this. So again, we're moving toward an experience of your whole self. And the next time you do the movement, invite your hip to move as well and notice what happens as you move more and more of your whole self with the arm. Now the hip is connected to your leg and your pelvis. So maybe the movement changes in quality a little bit. Maybe it becomes easier or lighter or more fluid. Now, if you can, just let it be and go back to just the first movement where I only said move your arm behind you And most of us will move the arm by itself. We do this all the time. Nothing else needs to move actually, because the arm can move alone. So let this be. Rest. If you want to rest on your back, it's okay. Observing any sensation that is interesting to you. When we work on the side, you can change sides if you want to, or only work on one side. So I'm going to lead the session only on the same side, but you feel free to shift around if you want to. From the right to the left. And now we're playing with this concept, this principle that shifting your attention alters the quality of the experience. So come back to lie on your left side on the floor. Range yourself so you're comfortable, your head is long on top of the spine. And play with these 2 or 3 new ways you're finding to move your arm behind you, your right arm. And now, instead of thinking of the arm going behind you or your hip, think of your back. Think of the back of your back, your shoulder blades and the space between the ribs. What is going on over there? Is there any movement? What if you were thinking now of shifting your attention to the distance between the floor and your back? Does that change, making the movement easier or more challenging? Or doesn't it at all? And now be playful with this idea, because now the idea is yours. And shift your attention to your right toe. And does that help the movement at all? Or think of your belly button or your left knee. Or maybe fix your attention on something and don't shift it at all and keep doing the movement a few times with your attention just hyper focused on one thing. And see if it's true to you that allowing your attention to be free and to move in different directions changes the quality of what you're experiencing. And that you can choose where to place your attention. And if you were suddenly placing your attention now in what are you going to have for dinner or the email you have to answer, the quality of the movement will change too. That's why the present moment is such a beautiful teacher. Brings the attention back home. So now choose from all these multiple points of attention the one that makes the movement feel the best to you. Not to me, not to whoever says this or that, but to you. So you honor your ability to choose what feels good to you, makes the movement easier for you, more pleasurable for you, and gives you the best quality of experience. Perhaps it's the breath, that you're not holding your breath or tightening your jaw. And let it go, rest again, make a note of that. Perfect. If you're on the floor, please lie on your back so you take a full break, and you might feel the difference between the right side and the left, by the way. So, pondering this notion that the quality of our attention changes the experience, that we can move toward something even if it's new or mysterious, unfamiliar. Now we'll explore the third principle we're working with today, which is that as we move with more and more of ourselves integrated, connected, we also have a more efficient and delightful experience. So come back to lying on your left side on the floor. And now, as you think about the movement first, you think about it without doing it, and think about everything you already learned about this in only 10-15 minutes. What makes it easier? How does it change if you change your attention? How does it change if you move toward your sensation and not pull away, retract, contract? Now, allow your hand, your right hand. You can keep your eyes closed if you want to, but let your right hand now come in front of you. So take your right hand and put it in front of you, maybe in front of your face. Arm is long, and look at this hand. Look at your hand in the front and in the back. Remind your brain that your eyes and your hands know a lot about each other. So connect your eye to your hand and then put the arm down, rest it. Remember this. We're using one very cool ability of the brain, that is, when you think about the movement, the same neurons that just fired are firing again, even if you're not doing it. Athletes know this, musicians, we know this. So you play the movement in your mind without doing it. It's really useful if you're having pain or you can't move. Now think of this hand in front of your face. See if you can remember the lines, the knuckles, and then put it in front of you again and watch your own hand with curiosity. Move towards. Lean into the experience that now your attention is fully in knowing every little crease of your hand. And you can make the arm long in front of you, but you still look at the fingers and the lines. And what is easier, if to look at the palm or the back. Be really, really engaged and curious and learning more. You don't want a different hand. You don't want to change anything. You simply want to see more of it. Okay? And now put the hand down, rest your arm, and think about the movement again. Use your imagination and imagine, without moving please, what would it feel like? Imagine yourself looking at this hand and taking the hand away across space behind you in the direction of the space behind your back, but your eyes and head on the hand at all times. Just think of it. Imagine now your body moving as if your eyes are glued to this hand, and as the hand moves, your head moves. And think of the movement first and see if you can picture what would be different the moment your gaze is connected to the arm, to the hand, to the movement that we're doing. Your eyes moving your spine around itself. Imagine this. And then only after you imagined it a few times, go ahead and do it. You're lying on your left side. You're bringing the right arm in front of you, looking at your right palm, and taking this palm around yourself across space, floating this arm in space, and letting everything move as one. Your shoulders, your ribs, your hips, maybe even your whole leg, right leg, and the arm goes behind you as much as you can follow it with your eyes. The moment you can't follow anymore, stop and come back and rehearse that a couple more times, inviting more and more of your whole self, breathing and all, breathing it all. Your ribs, your belly, everything is invited. You thought it was just the arm, but it's you. It's the whole of you. Leaning in to experiencing more and more of yourself, participating. And you're not changing on purpose. Things are changing on their own. Breathing, resting. That's right. And feeling now, what is, if you had the choice, what feels better to you? This variation where you're taking your eyes and the hand together and the whole of you is invited to move. Or if you can remember the first attempt where you simply took your arm behind yourself, and if you're really flexible, you can do it and put it all the way behind you, but the rest of you doesn't know anything about this movement. And it's not to say which one is better, which one is worse. There are two options. But which one feels to you better? It feels, let's describe better. It feels a little more connected, perhaps more fluid, smoother. And come back, let this go. You can play the movement in your mind again if you want to, once or twice. And let it be, lie down, rest again, rest completely. And think about the experience we just had and the three principles that we were playing with. Shifting your attention alters the experience, the quality of the experience. You have a choice of moving away, moving towards, or staying neutral. And you can move with your whole self whenever you want to, if it feels good to you. You don't have to be a sum of parts. You can move as one. And you can bring your whole self to the situation. So how did you experience this in your body? Were you able to sense a change in your experience when your attention shifted? Did you notice a difference when your whole self, including your eyes and your breath, were part of the movement? Did you notice a tendency to move away or towards or remain neutral when a new invitation is provided, when new information comes up? So when you're ready now, come back up. You can sit again, you can go for a short walk. And I invite you to share in the chat, if you can, maybe a couple words about your experience, if you want to. Thank you, Ward, for sharing. I appreciate it. Felt your anxiety and clenching subside. Great. That's wonderful. Thank you. And as we reflect on our experience, perhaps share if we can. Again, considering that we can apply this to our relationship with ourselves, with a situation in family or loved ones, to something we are experiencing. Absolutely, Lynn. Yes, thank you for sharing that. It is an experience that takes getting used to. Yeah. I like to think sometimes when I work with people, I work with people one-on-one, remotely or in person, and I think of them as athletes. Because really what we're doing is we're training new muscles, we're training new areas of our brain, connecting them to new areas of our whole body, body, spirit, body, heart, right? All of it, that sometimes is unexplored. So definitely it takes time getting used to it. It takes practice and repetition. And it takes an open mind to see yourself that way, instead of seeing yourself as a set in stone, group of thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and this is me, and this is how I move, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do. Because in a way, it's like you're walking into a space where anything is possible. Yael says, I had a headache when starting. I noticed fear attached to the pain and discomfort, and the practice shifted me into a position of gentle authority over my experience, and headache is gone. That's beautiful. Yay! Thank you, Yael. Oh, that's wonderful. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing that. Amma has a question. Diana, please, I would like a little more explanation as to how this applies to relationship with other people. Okay, so at the beginning, were you at the beginning? Did you hear the beginning? Because if you didn't, I was explaining a lot at the start, but I can definitely recap. I would like to know if you were here at the beginning. I don't need to repeat. I will go more in depth. But if you were not here, then we have to repeat a little bit. So if you can share, I will be able to answer. We started almost an hour ago. Okay. Amma, did you hear the beginning? You guys are too cute. Sometimes we need to hear the same thing in multiple ways, right? So think about 3 things we hopefully got to experience through the movement lesson. I'm calling them principles, but they're basically ideas from this work, this body of work. Number 1 idea is that if we shift our attention, we have a different experience. So how would that apply to relationships? Let's take an example. Relationship with yourself first, because it's foundational. Let's say, I'm going to take an example from my life. Let's say you have a little bit of insecurity with yourself because you want to put yourself out there in certain things that you're doing, but sometimes you're not sure people are going to get them. I'm talking directly about my experience right now. Sometimes I have a lot to share, and then I question, should I write this? Should I put a video on? Do I need to do a live session? Will they get it? How do we do it? So it becomes a source of self-doubt when actually I know what I want to share and I could just say it. So my attention is actually, when self-doubt comes, which is a relationship with the self, my attention in that moment is in one place. It's in, will they understand? What is the best way for me to do this? If I shift my attention instead into what do I want to share and let it come in the way that it would, maybe a drawing, maybe a quote, then it naturally will find a different expression. But there's infinite places where my attention could be. My attention could be in, let me find some feedback. Let me share this with a couple people that I trust in a couple different ways and see how it's received. My attention could be in, oh my God, I did this last year and it went wrong, so probably will go wrong again, for example, right? So depending on where you place your attention, not only you're changing the outcome, but the quality, how you feel. You may be having a hard time and you shift your attention and suddenly it becomes easy. Yeah, usually we pay attention to a few things at the same time. We can rarely pay attention to more than 1 or 2 things at the same time, for real. So we're bound to have an experience based on that. And sometimes all it takes is that you say, oh, my attention determines my experience, so I'm free to shift. I'm free to now place attention somewhere else. Let's say, I'm gonna wrap this around an example that is hypothetical. Let's say you're having challenge with your son, and you're only thinking about what this person cannot do. Like, you ask your son to put the socks away from the floor, or be a little less time on the cell phone, or don't say that word, or don't do this thing when we're eating, or right, like all the things that you want to change, right? Your attention is in everything that's missing from your training. You wanna get something, and you're not getting it. You're inevitably going to have an experience of frustration, of what's missing, of not enoughness, disappointment. And it only takes a shift of your attention to see everything that, in this case, your son is capable of, to begin to count your blessings, isn't it? And I do this a lot with my own relationship with my children, because I have 2 beautiful daughters. And yes, sometimes I have to say the same thing 4 times. But if I shift my attention from, oh my gosh, you didn't hear that I told you please empty the dishwasher, and I go, oh, but they are emotionally available and they can hear me and they can speak back, because they could be deaf and they could be have disabilities in a way that they couldn't even understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So the moment I shift my attention from, oh, I want this to be this way and to happen on my terms, to look at everything that is here already, I soften something within my experience, changes, and I may even become more playful in a way that I approach my need in that moment, which is, in this moment, I would need you to hear me say this and let's get it done. Right? So again, your attention shifts, and what changes is your internal experience of what is happening. So was it easier for you to take your arm behind you when your eyes were on it? Absolutely so. Right? But if you were only paying attention, she said the arm, so I gotta move the arm, you were pounding and pushing, right? And the moment your attention was on your palm and letting it move slowly, it was a different experience. Okay, so same thing, is just shifting by choice, knowing that you're not a prisoner. So if somebody's doing something to annoy you, and that's at the forefront of your attention, it takes a moment, yes, for you to step back, but you can do it. And when you can step back, your attention is free again. So that connects us to the second principle, that is, we may feel that we have to only react in one way. So maybe you're the one in your family that fixes everything and makes everybody happy. And you're always moving toward and try to make it right. Find peace, conflict resolution, everybody's okay. Maybe you're the person that always retreats to the corner because you can't deal, because it's overwhelming, because it's too much. And again, that's an option. But sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it, because we're doing that to stay safe and to feel okay. So towardness is a movement of the self. Awareness is a movement of the self, or the no self, or the consciousness. And neutrality. I don't need to move in any direction. I can just be here. I can breathe. I can move everything around me with my own mind and consciousness, or not move at all. I don't have to say yes or say no or decide. That's another option. How does that apply to relationships? That one pretty evident, right? Especially if you're an autopilot and you're always moving away, always moving toward, always staying neutral. Just playing with the options can change your experience immediately. And then finally, the third principle we covered was that as we move with our whole self, which is how we are designed to move, absolutely useful to be able to do this and not participate with that. We do that cooking a lot, right? We're doing things, but definitely when we can move as one and everything is part of the movement, the quality changes. It becomes smoother, it becomes more efficient. We call it differentiation versus integration, right? It's really good for me to be able to just move my finger and the knuckle, and my whole body can stay still. And some movements require that we move the whole self. And if you only move the shoulder, you're creating effort and heat, and that joint will deteriorate faster than if you move the joints together. How does that apply to relationships? Well, a lot of times we only bring a specific part of ourselves to a relationship. We choose, we select, oh, I want this person to know only the best of me. I only want you to see my beauty. I will not show you my shame, my fear, my guilt, my mud, my yucky, because you might go away. And without knowing, we are reducing our experience of that relationship. First with ourselves, because we are neglecting, pushing away, tucking away, hiding, shaming parts of us which want to be one and feel fragmented. We're pushing them away. But also the person receiving us, we are almost like taking away the gift. The gift is everything. And if they're not taking the whole, maybe they're not meant to be in your life. But mainly first, the acceptance within ourselves that everything is okay to be here. Everybody's welcomed. And then I'm talking about feelings, I'm talking about thoughts, I'm talking about places where we come out short, wounds, and all the beautiful things we are here to give. All of it. Right? So as we move as one, as we see ourselves as one and a whole self in a dance, in a continuous dance and integration, then we can bring that to the world. Again, first we relate to self in that way, and then we position ourselves that way. And then some things become a little more challenging because you're not used to other people seeing your more vulnerable spots. Brené Brown is really good at talking about this. The moment you become comfortable with that, oh my God, it's so much more relaxing because it takes a lot of energy to guard all. It's as if you had all these little things that you want to stay in line. If anyone sees that, it's gonna create an issue. So it takes a lot of energy. It's like withholding a wild horse, right? So finally, allowing yourself to move in the world in that way is what people mean when they say, all you have to be is your authentic self. Just be you. Well, what do they mean? Move as one. Show yourself as one. And if it's less pretty than you thought it was going to be, so be it. Now, what's funny, and I tell you here again from personal experience, is that what you thought it wasn't so pretty, it's actually more beautiful because it's real. I checked this personally. I said to somebody I was speaking with recently, I said, but wait, when I share with you all this fear that I have and all this shame, like you don't think, wow, let me just run away. I said, no, I think it's beautiful because it's human, it's you. Right? So again, our perception of this aspect, this fragment, it's like when you have part of you, like I have, let's say, pain on my neck, and I was thinking, oh, my neck. But actually, instead, I can go, well, what would my neck need to move as part of my spine and my shoulders and maybe my eyes? And instead of pushing it and rejecting it and thinking it's ugly, it's broken, it's wrong, I go, how can I bring you back into myself? And the pain goes away. All I wanted is to be seen, included, feel part of. So try that out. Okay, my loves. I hope that was useful because I went way off time here speaking, sharing that again, but I hope it was useful. And for those of you that were here later, now you got a recap as well. I wanted to share with you again that you can find more information about me in my teachers page, Diana, my YouTube channel. I have a Patreon. I have a website. It's all supposed to be there in my link tree. If you can make a donation, that would be fabulous. Always welcome. If you can't, it's okay. If you can like the page or follow the page, I'm gonna push to pass 3,000 people here because I think I'll get more visibility for my new tracks. I'm uploading tracks every week. There's one in the approval process right now. What else? Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your donation, Yael. Thank you. It really helps my practice. to receive donations, and we share it with the Insight community here. Christine, is that you? Did you change your avatar? So cute. Good to have you back. Ginger, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, please bring friends. It's fun to do this together because then you can talk about it afterwards and see how did it work. I posted a new one that I think it should be out there already for next weekend. And we're going to talk about flow. And next weekend, we're going to use the same concepts, right? Feldenkrais for life. In real life, a friend of mine recently said is Feldenkrais IRL, which I didn't know what it meant. So yeah, Feldenkrais in real life. And what we're going to do is explore this notion of flow. And how many times do we feel stiff in our bodies? And how many times do we feel tight and stuck? And again, we're going to look at a couple of principles. Why is that? Why do we feel stuck? Why do we get stuck? Is the nature of us to feel stuck? Or are we going against nature? Let's look at nature. When does nature get stuck? When is nature rigid? Or is nature more like water? So how can we find flow? And then how can we use that to improve our relationship, not only with ourselves and others, which is what we've been doing. Ourselves was last week. That's in my Patreon account. Us with others was today. And next week, we're going to talk about us in the environment. Because when we're rigid and stuck, the experience that we're going to have around us is going to be rigid and stuck. And when we are in flow, the experience of the world we're going to have will match our inner sense. So all of it, from you at work, you in your chair and desk and bed and environment, like physical environment, and you in the greater expanse of what's around you. Because a lot of how we perceive the world is how we feel within. So as we find more flow within, we will find more flow available to us, like a current that we can join. Okay? And we'll do that tomorrow, next weekend, Saturday. Thank you, Ama. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes. Come on back. All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for following, for the donations, for the hearts, and all the comments. I really appreciate having a conversation with you. Because otherwise, imagine how exhausting it is to only speak to the camera. Know that I love you. That is a privilege for me to be here sharing with you. And that you have multiple ways to connect with me, including a private message on Insight that I will always answer. So let's stay connected. Practice if you can, if you like anything from today's session. And come back next week, okay? Okay. Much love to everyone. Have a beautiful weekend. Mwah. Be well. Bye, dear ones.